Hello my friends, how are you? Today we will talk about the Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace. Muhammad was born in Mecca in the year 570 AD and was from the Quraysh tribe, descendants of Ishmael, the son of the Prophet Ibrahim. However, most of them worshipped idols, and his grandfather was a leader of the Quraysh, while his uncle was one of their leaders. His father, Abdullah, died before he was born, and his mother, Amina, died when he was 6 years old, so he was raised in the house of his poor uncle, Abu Talib. As a young boy, Muhammad worked as a shepherd to earn a living. As he grew older, he ventured into trade and became a merchant for a wealthy and esteemed woman named Khadija. His trade was profitable, and Muhammad was known for his honesty and sincerity. Khadija, who was about 10 years older than him, eventually married him. After 15 years of successful marriage and peaceful living, when Muhammad was nearly 40, he started visiting the cave of Hira near Mecca to worship Allah, as his people worshipped idols which he didn't approve of. In Mecca, there were some Christians and Hanifs who followed the religion of Ibrahim. One day, the angel Gabriel came to the cave, but Muhammad didn't recognize him. Gabriel told Muhammad to read, but Muhammad replied that he couldn't read. Gabriel embraced Muhammad 3 times, each time commanding him to read, but Muhammad continued to insist that he couldn't. Muhammad was nearly overwhelmed by Gabriel's embrace. Terrified and trembling, Muhammad returned home. After several days, his wise wife took him to a Christian man named Waraka ibn Nawfal, who was transcribing the Gospel. He told Muhammad that he was being revealed to and that he was a prophet, and that his people would drive him out of Mecca. Afterwards, Gabriel would periodically come to Muhammad with some verses from the Quran. Allah first commanded him to secretly invite his relatives and companions to Islam, and then later commanded him to openly call to Islam. Some people followed him, but the Quraysh persecuted the Prophet and his followers. They imposed an economic and social boycott on his relatives, refusing to buy from them or sell to them, and they even prevented marriages between them and their women. This was done to pressure the Prophet to stop calling to Islam. They killed and tortured a number of Muslims mercilessly, without any compassion or mercy. The Prophet did not resist them but endured with patience, guided by Allah. Allah challenged the Arabs to produce a chapter like those in the Quran since they were eloquent and skilled in poetry, but they couldn't match it and failed. The Arabs used a pilgrimage to Mecca, and the Prophet would present Islam to them. Many mocked and insulted him. Quraysh attempted to silence and hinder him, offering him wealth or whatever he desired in exchange for abandoning Islam and his preaching, but he refused.
Pilgrims from Medina, previously known as Yathrib and inhabited by Arabs and Jews, came to Mecca. The inhabitants of Medina responded to them and embraced Islam because they had heard from the Jews about a prophet whom Allah would send soon. Many Muslims fled to Medina, and some Arabs, along with Quraysh, attempted to kill Muhammad. However, Muhammad migrated to Medina, where he continued to receive guidance from the Quran, which instructed him on what to do. Upon reaching Medina, Muhammad became its leader, prophet, and judge, establishing a state with justice as its motto. Despite religious differences between Muslims and Jews, he made a treaty with the Jews to regulate their relations and protect the city together from its enemies. Muhammad led battles against the Quraysh and tribes that didn't enter agreements with him because they posed a threat to Medina. In one of these battles, Quraysh besieged the city along with the Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza, who had broken their treaty with the Prophet. Despite the odds, Muhammad remained brave and confident in God's victory, reassuring the Muslims that they would triumph and conquer Syria, Egypt, Iraq, and Persia in the future. The Prophet emerged victorious, and the disbelievers fled. In the year 627, a 10-year truce was agreed upon with the Quraysh, during which time the Muslim community grew significantly. Muhammad corresponded with kings and rulers, inviting them to Islam. This truce marked a major victory for the Muslims, achieving what they hadn't in warfare. The revelation continued guiding the Prophet, with Gabriel bringing Quranic verses from God. When Quraysh violated the truce and killed Muslims, Muhammad marched on Mecca in 630 AD, 8 years after his migration, forgiving its people who had harmed him and many Muslims. Mecca, the most important city in the Arabian Peninsula, saw Allah commanding the Prophet to abolish idol worship, giving its inhabitants the choice between war, flight, or Islam. Almost all tribes embraced Islam, and Muhammad returned to Medina, where he passed away in 632, marking the end of the migration era. Some people believe that Muhammad became the foremost man in the world due to his genius, while Muslims attribute it to divine revelation rather than Muhammad's brilliance. Muhammad's companions deeply loved him and recounted numerous miraculous events, such as his predictions of the future, his ability to draw water from his fingers, feeding hundreds of Muslims in battle with little food, the splitting of the moon when disbelievers requested a miracle, the appearance of a tree trunk he leaned on during prayer which wept when he left it, his journey to Jerusalem and back in one day, his description of the Al-Aqsa Mosque when requested by disbelievers, and his assistance to some people in finding their lost camel, which later proved they found it through his guidance. Thank you for watching. Praise be to God, Lord of the worlds. We ask that you subscribe so that knowledge can spread.